So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you the process that we're going through to redo our countertops. We are currently redoing our floors. I'm going to sand these things down pretty quick here. Since we're not going to be staying in our house while the floors are drying up, we figured it was the best opportunity to also redo our countertops. We're also building a little bit of an extension onto the countertop because this width that the stove had was improper. So I just need to sand this down, make sure it's all square to the countertop so you can't really tell it's there. You probably will still be able to tell that something was added here, but it'll be better than having that really wide gap on either side of the stove that we had before. I'm thinking that what happened is they put a fridge here or something and they built it according to the fridge like width back in the 50s, and now it's like a weird non-standard size. So that's what we put there. We've taped everything off that could possibly get overspray, and then we're gonna cover everything else that's in our kitchen. Just everything's covered. Planning to repaint our backsplash like white or something, so we're not gonna worry about getting some overspray on that. But to start with, we're gonna rough everything up. I'm gonna sand down this piece I added, and then we're gonna rough the entire surface up. Then we'll clean it really well, make sure that it's degreased properly, so that there's no chance of the paint randomly peeling off. Just a lot of prep work to get it ready to actually paint our first coat. Nice and rough. The paint should be able to stick to it really well now. And we also vacuumed it, wiped it down, and I think it's pretty much ready to go for spray paint. We don't care if a little bit of paint gets on this wall, and we don't care if a little bit of overspray gets on that, because we're planning to paint that. Same with this back wall here and the backsplash. We're planning to paint that after we do the countertops. This is the exact stuff we're using. It's already been shook up. I'm going to throw on a mask and we're going to start painting. I'm just going to go ahead and
so exciting.
Start painting this.
Smells like spray paint.
It sure does. What do you think of how it looks so far?
I'm super excited.
So that, I want to do that coat pretty thin because otherwise it'll get runs. Which if we do get some runs, we can sand them out before our final.
But it's just better to not.
Yes, absolutely. So I just kind of did the edges first, and then going to gradually move in toward the middle. And I think it's fine if this coat doesn't actually like coat everything perfectly black, because we're going to end up putting some variants in it.
Yeah, and also mini coats probably.
So that looks pretty nice.
Yes.
Actually, the backsplash is kind of cool with this like oddly faded.
No, it looks like you spray painted it.
It looks cool. And
have fun around the sink.
Painted. Yeah, it might be a little bit interesting back here. Hopefully our taping job is really good.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we got it pretty good. You don't think that looks cool?
Well,
look at it. It's super cool. I like it.
I think it looks like an accident.
Well, that's because you know it's an accident, but
everybody else will too, because they'll look at it. No more yellow.
So if this only lasts a couple years, we're just going to replace the countertops.
Yeah.
I think.
It's basically a countertop band-aid.
Should we just leave like one square of yellow?
Just so we can remember? Well, let's just leave the backsplash for now. Maybe we can leave a square of yellow on the backsplash.
As you can see, I've changed over to the thumb because this finger's getting tired. Do you think that much black is a big improvement? Like, do you like that a lot more?
I already like, if it was just plain black like this, I would like it more than the yellow. So much.
I think I'm an overly content person though, because I like the yellow too.
You're weird.
Well, I mean,
You didn't have to cook on the yellow every day. Yeah,
We're gonna let this dry,
Okay.
and then
Excited.
tomorrow we'll probably come and put another coat. Or maybe later tonight.
Yeah.
So here are the next 3 coats that we're gonna be adding. We've got this one, which is a rich and elegant textured finish. I'm not exactly sure what the exact kind of name is. Stone textured finish, which we like this because it has all those little whitish flecks. And then we got this sparkly stuff because we figured that that would kind of mimic like a granite countertop. So if you imagine like this, a little bit of that and a little bit of that mixed in, it should go really well with the black. You can see our countertops have dried. Wow, there's actually dust. Dust has settled on them, which is understandable. It's been like 2 days since I did this. That wood grain also kind of rose on this wood that I had sanded down, but it's probably going to kind of disappear as we add the next couple layers of paint. So I might brush these off a little bit and then go for it. I'm going to do this kind of whitish stuff first, and then I'll do this really textured stuff, and then we'll do the sparkles last. That is interesting. Didn't really expect it to look like that, but pretty sure we got it shook up enough. Just totally different. Looks a lot different than I expected, quite frankly. Kind of want to get some like unique patterns going. We'll see how the application process. Got some good ventilation going in here. Ceiling fan, doors. This stuff is definitely stronger than the last stuff. Now we're just going over that layer with the second kind of spray. I think it's looking pretty good. Here's kind of what we're ending up with toward the end finish. Just moved over to the sparkly stuff. So we're just going to let this dry now till tomorrow. And we'll see what it looks like after we sand it. So here's how they look the following morning. I actually am very happy with it. It's more sparkles than I imagined, but I say it looks really good. It still seems just a little bit tacky since we did a pretty thick layer last night doing those multiple coats and colors, but I like it. I like it. It looks really good. We're thinking that we probably won't need all of this like barricades and stuff, so we're probably going to take a lot of that stuff off. And then we're just lightly sanding it. You can see that's what actually brings out the little flecks of white, like there, is sanding it a little bit. And we're just using 120 on this sander. Of course, the goal for this is to just knock down all the roughness. This is what we're using on our floor in our living room, and we were thinking it'd probably work really well for a countertop too, because it's just really tough stuff. It should be really tough and last really well on the countertops. And from what I've heard, water-based polyurethanes, once they've cured properly, are not very susceptible to water damage, so we're thinking it really is going to work good. And I guess we'll find that out if we use it. It's looking good. You can hardly tell that we made these extensions on here. We've begun applying our first coat. Just getting our edges, and the rest, like the main surface area, we're actually going to use this floor applicator. We're going to try it, see how that works. But you could, of course, just use a brush and brush it over the whole thing. Look how blue this stuff looks while it's being applied. So here's how it looks the next morning after the first coat of polyurethane on it. And we like it. It's kind of sparkly and white. It's turning out really nice. Hopefully we got it nice and thick. I'm sure you did it nice and thick along there.
Pretty good layer on there. And then there's no drips along the edge so far that I've noticed.
Yeah, no, it
No
looks
inconsistencies or
looks really good.
bumps.
And we're probably gonna do like 5 or 6 coats
Think
for
there's
sure.
any need to sand in between? I
No,
don't think we should.
no, I don't think there is.
Because we're just taking off the material. And if it's smooth enough.
It's very nice looking. Huge improvement. So Larissa went ahead and added a coat while I was gone at work, and just had her take a time lapse of it so you could see how long. I mean, it doesn't take very long to get a whole coat on. It just takes a lot of coats. And we actually alternated. We did some the long way with the countertop, and then we went the other way on the second coat to prevent any marks that would slowly come through as the layers of finish went on. But it was pretty good at leveling out in between each coat. So here's how they're looking after 7 coats. Planning to add 1 more coat. I'm going to take the masking tape off around the sink very carefully next. And that's so that when we add this final coat, because we decided to do 8 coats, it's able to really adhere up underneath the edge of the sink. Because I want to make sure that's not like a starting peel point. So I'm just going to take a razor blade and gently cut along there. But yeah, I would say overall I really like the look of it. So we're just doing a very light sanding with some 120 grit before we apply our final 8th coat. It's just to knock down any rough spots there are. They really were and are pretty smooth, so I don't know if this is actually necessary. Basically, there's just a couple spots over here. Maybe you can see there's a couple little specks that are in the finish, like right there, that I just wanted to smooth down because I know they'll get scraped off later. And masking tape came off good. Looks really good along here. But this final coat then will really seal up this little edge. We then use the countertops as we would use any other countertop for the next 6 months. The first couple months we were a little bit gentle on it just because that water-based finish was still curing and was pretty susceptible to any water. If you left like a wet rag on it, it would make like a white spot. But now that it's fully cured, it really doesn't do that, and I have a video explaining that bit. But we just kind of use it like a countertop. We had a little bit of water spill on the counter. This happened while we were gone today, so it's been sitting on the counter for probably 3 hours, 4 hours. But I just wanted to show how much of a mark it'll actually leave on the countertop. See where it's been wet. If I wipe it away, there's not much for evidence that it was there. You can see a slightly lighter area, which that actually happens to our table too. This is like 6 months after doing it, but like the first 3 or 4 months, that would have left a really light colored spot just because the polyurethane wasn't quite cured. But as it is now, it seems like it doesn't really have much trouble. So probably after a year, it'll hardly get any light colored spot from moisture being on the countertop. So it has been roughly 6 months since we redid our countertops. This is the follow-up video to kind of show you how well it's held up and give you an honest opinion about whether or not you should actually do this at your home. So I think that for our situation, it made a lot of sense since we wanted to add some sort of countertop in here and just change the look of it right away without doing like serious renovations to the house. I'm guessing that this top coat will last like 2 or 3 years before it's too beat up in order to, look nice at all. So you'll notice like right here, we got some sort of scratch in the countertop from something being scooted across it. But otherwise, for the most part, it's held up. Turn on the flash here and you can see that it looks pretty much the same as what it looked like when we painted it on. The backsplash, we just painted plain white, and I think that turned out really nice. We also went along and replaced all of the outlets, got rid of that old electrical box thing that was there. New outlets really made it look a lot better. We've also replaced the window that was previously here because it was actually broken. I don't know if you noticed in the other video, but we have a new window. We still need to add trim up the edges, so just ignore that unfinished bit. just washed a bunch of dishes, so I can't really show you this corner, but it's the same. Just painted white backsplash, new outlets, and yeah, it's held up good. You can see here, there's a mark from a knife, chopping a vegetable or something. We try to use cutting boards whenever we're cutting something against it because a knife up against that surface will easily scratch it. I mean, it's not like the hardest surface ever. Around the sink though, it's held up really good. Like none of the polyurethane has started to come off, even over here by the drip tray of the dish thing. I was kind of expecting that it would take a beating over here, and I considered putting silicone, but I haven't had to do anything to it. It's been fine. So over here you can see there's a slight line right here, and that was actually my fault when I was applying the top coat. I wanted it to be a little bit thicker right here because I knew that the dish area would get a lot of wear. So I just, after we put on our 8th coat, I just like swiped it 2 more times when it was a little bit tacky, and I should have continued all the way down because now there's this slight like gradient that you can see some of the time. Right now it's especially visible, but I want to show you everything that is wrong with the countertop. From this direction though, it's a lot less noticeable, and unless you're really looking for it, you're not going to see it. But that was my fault applying the top coat. And then you can see there's wear. This is probably where the countertop gets used the most aggressively when we're preparing food. You know, it's right next to the stove, cutting board, chopping vegetables. Dishes are getting slid back and forth from here over to the sink to get washed. So that's the sort of wear we're seeing after 6 months, which is not a small amount of wear. So I don't know if I actually would recommend that you do this. It was a fun experiment, but like I said, we just didn't want to do a whole bunch of big renovations immediately, and this was kind of a nice like freshen up the kitchen so we don't have bright yellow countertops, and then hold us over until we know what we actually want to do, whether we would do like some sort of granite or just buy some nice countertops from Menards. Either way, I'd be happy with it, and it was a low-risk experiment. So I hope that you found this interesting. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I need to mention. Oh, when we slid the stove in, I accidentally chipped the coat just a little bit, but it's not like continuing on, so I think it did adhere to the paint really well. Oh, the sanding marks. That was the other thing that I was really disappointed about. If you look, okay, see right here? That is a slight line from the sanding marks. So if you use a belt sander, you got to be really careful to not like shift the angle of the belt sander at all, because when you do that, the edge of the belt will dig in more aggressively, and you might get slight indents in the countertop. So if you have the time, it would actually be better to just use a like palm sander for roughing up the entire surface. The belt sander was great because it was really fast at taking off that dirty top coat and then making it a good adherent surface. But I don't know if I'd recommend using a belt sander just because you want it to be really flat, you know. Over here was a lot less of that as a problem. But anyway, we really like how it turned out, and I think that it was a fun test project anyway. Hope that you enjoyed, and if this is something that you want to try, you have the idea, but again, keep in mind that it's definitely not perfect and could use some improvement. So if you can learn something from this, that's great. In any case, I will talk to you in the next video.